Do we have any additions to the agenda? Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Approval of the agenda. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion seconded. Discussion? No discussion? Submit your vote.
It's not on
More
there.
gentlemen.
Mine isn't pulling up.
Okay, verbal, please. Verbal.
Oh, fine. I was like, recover my recovery.
Sorry, we missed one report member. We must have went to the Senate. Approval of the agenda. We need a yea or
Approval of the consent agenda.
Motion carries 6-0.
Oh, yeah. That's always fun.
So we have some student recognition tonight. We'd like to see Jason. I think Jason wants to speak.
These two students are Olivia Lyons and Haley Cotter. They are both of our two state placers in wrestling. They also represented Burlington in the Shrine Duels, which was pretty amazing that they were willing to do that. Both of these young ladies won over 100 career matches. One is at 134 and the other one's at 124, which are the two most winningest wrestlers in the girls' history. They're hardworking ladies. They're both committed to go to Baker University. Olivia Lyons is wrestling at Baker next year, and Haley Potter went to Baker for track, but has accepted a position on the wrestling team as well. So she's getting to try both of them. So these two young ladies are pretty talented, hardworking young ladies. So,
And they're not here with us tonight,
no,
are they?
they went straight from track practice to work. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Good, thank you. Congratulations, those two. Thank you, Jason. Concerns regarding the ESD 244 patrons, do you have anyone?
We have Brianna Kirby and Jeff Sear.
Brianna?
Excuse me, sorry. I have a copy for everybody. I probably have some extra, if that's okay. It's the same thing that you guys received by email, but I just want to make sure you all got to see it. Where's the best place to stand?
Right there, please.
Right here. Excellent. Here we go. Okay, so this is my letter of resignation that I wanted to make sure you all got the chance to hear from me. And I'm a tough girl, not gonna cry. That's what I keep telling myself all day. So, dear USC corporate board members, thank you so much. Can you tell how much I love this day job? I love it so much. Dear USC board members, due to being informed by Principal Judy Grover, I was going to be recommended for non-renewal of my contract for 2025-2026 on April 9th, 2025. I'm submitting to you my letter of resignation effective at the end of the 2024-2025 contract year for my positions of Family and Consumer Science Teacher and Family Career and Community Leaders of America at UCLA and Pfizer. I'm grateful for these 2 years that I worked at Burlington High School and look back on them as the most positive and most fulfilling years of my entire career. In the 2024-2025 year, I'm proud to have implemented industry-recognized training and certifications for every one of the classes I taught. Each student enrolled in Culinary Essentials, Culinary Arts 1 and Baking and Pastry 1 in fall 2024, which is a combined total of 51 students from both general education and special education populations passed the National Serve Safe Food Handler or National Serve Safe Food Manager industry level exams. They received certification, and this enables them to receive higher wages when working in food service. Students enrolled in Human Growth and Development completed a collective total of 8 hours of training related to topics such as newborn care and safety, the effects of trauma on children, and developmental milestones. Each of these professional development hours is child care industry recognized, and it's certified through the Kansas Trained Learning Network by the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. In 2024, I became a ProStar industry educator in conjunction with the Kansas Division of the National Restaurant and Hospitality Association, and partnered with that organization's educational foundation to register all VHS culinary classes as industry recognized career training effective next school year. In fall 2025. Upon the adoption of the foundation's curriculum, I submitted for approval in March 2025, which is right over there. In January 2025, I met with CTE Director Craig Coolman about adding a new CTE career pathway. We agreed to add the course Event Planning and Management as a Level 2 ProStar online course, qualifying USC 244 to add the Travel and Tourism CTE pathway to its offerings, which increases CTE funding and enables students to earn ProStart certificates of recognition and the ProStart certificate of achievement. In fall 2025, I hope to form the first ever BHS ProStart Culinary and Skills USA Culinary competitive teams. Next school year's class schedule draft, which I received on April 2nd, had me slated to co-teach English 3, which utilizes my prior experience teaching English language arts. To increase hands-on and career-oriented learning opportunities for my students, I partnered with the following additional organizations and businesses throughout the last 2 years. The Kansas Beef Council with their beef certificate program, the Kansas Soybean Commission with soybeans as food program, King Arthur Baking Company in the Bake for Good program, the Dibble Institute with the Love Notes program for healthy relationships. That curriculum is right over there. The Sweet Granada in Emporia, Kansas for a culinary business industry tour. Public at the Brickyard in Wichita, Kansas for culinary industry tours. K-State Research and Extension with the Coffee County office. Kansas Foundation for Agriculture in the Classroom and the Coffee County Hospital. In August 2024, I founded Crochet Cats, a power hour club dedicated to teaching BHS students how to crochet. I secured donations of hooks and yarn and hosted meetings in my classroom nearly every week in the first semester and bi-weekly in the second semester. Students made hats, Christmas ornaments, blankets, granny squares, and various other projects, plus friendships among their peers. I'm also proud to report that under my advisory of Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, FCCLA, Burlington High School had its first district-level star event competitor in many years, who then went on to qualify for the state contest, took second place in state in her event, and qualified for national conference in July 2025. FCCLA also hosted 8 hospitality rooms this year to fundraise for those expenses, producing delicious meals for tournament workers, coaches, referees, administrators, and more. As an educator, I pride myself on a positive classroom environment, effective teaching techniques, and a deep knowledge and passion for my content. In spring 2025, my teacher evaluation, I scored effective or highly effective in 38 out of the 43 scoring criteria, in only my second year ever teaching CTE. On February 21st, 2025, I received a job offer from the Emporia School District, USD 253. I met with Mrs. Grover the afternoon of February 24th, addressed concerns about those 5 remaining scoring criteria that rated lower than effective, and ultimately I declined that offer because I love this district. I do. The joy my job brings me and the excellent services and education that my daughter is receiving at Burlington Elementary Special Education Pre-K program. I cannot understate how I have loved every single day of working at Burlington High School. My colleagues, my students, and the BES staff who have so greatly impacted the life of my daughter. Thank you. Best regards, Brianna Kirby. Thank you so much for letting me read that.
Thank you, Graham.
Dorothy?
Next, we have Jeff Suter, likewise.
I have a prepared statement. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. So I'm Jeff Suter, representing the Burlington LifeWise Academy Steering Committee and over 150 community members who have signed a petition requesting that USD 244 develop a policy for release time religious instruction. And we have some representatives here tonight from that petition. So the request that we've made is consistent with the 1952 Supreme Court ruling and is supported by 2 Kansas Attorney General opinions allowing release time religious instruction for public school students during school hours provided the following are satisfied. Number 1, it's off school property. Number 2, it's privately funded. Number 3, it's parent approved. Currently, there are over 500 thriving release time religious instruction programs serving over 50,000 public students across the nation. What I'd like to do today is briefly update the community regarding our request to be on tonight's Board of Education agenda, which has also included a request for the school district to consider a draft policy addressing release time religious instruction. In accordance with Board Policy BCBI, public participation at board meetings, we submitted a request to be on the April 14th, 2025 agenda, which is tonight's agenda. Included in our request was a draft policy for board consideration addressing release time religious instruction. This proposed policy was submitted in accordance with Board Policy BDA, titled Developing, Adopting, Amending, and Repealing Board Policy, which states, individuals or groups may submit proposed changes in board policy. Our request to be on a Board of Education agenda was denied, with the email denial response provided by the superintendent being silent regarding the proposed policy change that we submitted. Though denial of the request to be on a Board of Education agenda may technically comply with the BCBI policy wording, as the superintendent did apparently speak with the Board of Education president, we believe that the spirit of the policy is not being satisfied regarding this significant community-driven request. A request that, where it has been adopted by other public schools, provides an approach to building student character that has proven to be a highly effective complement to the school's effort to grow students into educated, responsible individuals. Additionally, ignoring the request for a policy change appears to be a non-compliance with previously discussed Board Policy BDA. It appears that both the superintendent and school board president consider our request for the school district to develop a release time religious instruction program or policy as a closed item. However, we do not consider the request closed based on a board member discussion identifying they wanted to know more about LifeWise Academy when the topic was briefly discussed during the public comment period of the February 10th, 2025 Board of Education meeting. Unfortunately, 5 of the 7 board members have been non-responsive to our request to meet about release time religious instruction program. It disappoints me that the feedback that we have received from the superintendent and the board president regarding the release time religious instruction program include, number 1, looks like a really good program. It's not just for us during the school day. Number 2, we don't want to have to deal with the complaints if we were to have a LifeWise program. In my opinion, these comments do not reflect a complete and thoroughly vetted understanding or appreciation of the positive social and emotional impact observed in students participating in a release time religious instruction program. It should be noted that USD 244 may be exposed to liability in the way it has handled the agenda request and ignored the submitted policy change. This could be viewed as an adverse or non-inclusive action toward a religious belief, which is a violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution. I received a mailer 2 weekends ago touting the needs for a new elementary school for our community. The flyer contained the following statement: today's classrooms require additional support to meet the diverse needs of students, needs that have evolved significantly since the building was constructed. My interpretation of this statement is that these needs include behavior challenges within the classroom. LifeWise Academy focuses on character development and is a great complement to the Wildcat Way. Schools with the LifeWise Academy program experience better attendance, fewer in-school suspensions, and fewer out-of-school suspensions. This is objective evidence of improved student behavior for a participating school. Why would we not want that here, especially when it comes with a $0 price tag for the school district? Additionally, we believe that if sustained within the school district, a release time religious instruction program would have a positive impact on the current 7% Burlington High School dropout rate. Our request tonight is that the superintendent and the board reconsider our community-driven request for a release time policy for education from the Bible. It is requested that board members engage, possibly creating an advisory committee, working with the Burlington LifeWise Steering Committee, other community members, and staff as necessary to perform the following. Number one, objectively review the available information on release time religious instruction. Number two, physically visit with and observe local school districts with active release time religious instruction programs, and that includes locally in our area, both Madison and Sabetha have active release time religious instruction programs. This, we believe, would readily address the logistical questions that have been raised by the superintendent.
Jeff, how much more time do you get?
I have like 2 paragraphs.
Yes.
And finally, number three, develop a cost-benefit analysis for a release time religious program within the school district. And in closing, so considering that this is a community-supported request, we firmly believe that it warrants a more collaborative and thorough investigation regarding the viability of being adopted for USD 244. We owe that much to our leaders of tomorrow, who will be greatly impacted by today's board decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, to communications. So we have the elementary school report. Darla?
I don't think I have any additions at this time. Are there any questions for me?
Anyone have any questions for Darla?
Oh, how's the books? Is the
We
one?
just finished today, so it was fun. I think Julie enjoyed it.
Okay. No question, more question for Darla. Middle school, Matt?
I don't have anything to add or questions.
No question for Matt. Moving on to high school. Jody?
The only thing to add is with Sage Bell qualifying for nationals for her POI this past weekend. So we have FCLA, forensics, FCCLA right now, all qualified for, and then Headwind, all for nationals. So it's good to be a Wildcat right now.
Where is the Kid Win Nationals at?
Phoenix, and so they're not able to drive this year. So a little more expensive, but getting all the arrangements, Airbnb and all that kind of stuff. So. And they're taking 2 teams. So another team found out, so they're taking the
2
second.
different grade levels, right?
I don't know about that. Yeah, so they got moved up. So he's taking 2 full teams.
And I appreciate that he's going to do some engineering classes next year.
Yeah.
That,
Yes, and
Mr.
this is the second year with our engineering. So we started out with the intro to engineering, and so now it's engineering design and intro to engineering.
I missed that
And so
one.
beginning, so yes,
Good.
so we've incorporated, he has a full schedule, I mean, he's teaching like 6 preps,
Yeah.
but that's what you do when you're CTE. So that's been really good for the kids.
And I've been working with Jody. Jody has been working with me, helping. Because we have, at Wolf Creek, we're planning a big clean up volunteer day out at the Wolf Creek Environmental Area Trails. And I had reached out to Jody to get some volunteers, see if she had any students that wanted to do some volunteering. So on the 24th, we are going to have around 180 students. Very excited. Like, it started small, now it's like...
I said, we'll send them all.
It's a big deal.
They get the water.
Yeah.
So,
More of a
yeah.
voluntold situation than a volunteer situation?
Well, then the nurse and I sat down with the 5 pages of allergies and bee stings. We're like, okay, whoa, this is bigger than me, right? So kids that opt to maybe stay out of the sun or stay out of the environment, they get to our commons area with the trophy cases and things like that, maybe detail our cars. So they'll stay around the store and do some fun things.
Our cars.
Not our cars, our fleet.
That sounded bad.
Can I bring my car for sure?
Sure.
Except I'm volunteering,
But
great.
yeah, just the logistics of, we have 29 projects out there identified, and so I'm just excited for kids to get, because that area has really kind of fallen down and just is not super usable anymore. And so I'm excited to have kids get out and get back to the community, and we're gonna refurbish those trails out there so that the public can use them. So I'm excited for that day.
Well, it's my 3rd year here, and I didn't know it existed. So I'm really excited how many kids might not know, and our adults in our building to get out there. And then we're committing 2 days. We're going to commit one in the fall, one in the spring, and because, with the new 2028 requirements, getting community service hours is one way they can do that for their graduation assets. So it's not fair to ask them if we're not also offering some of those availability. So get the kids out in the fresh air, and anytime they say free food or whatever,
We're going to feed them.
Feed them
We're going to feed them
and give them plenty of water.
lunch.
So, and the
Make them earn it though.
the welding class has already gone out to the silo and gotten the gate, took the gate down, so they're doing some in-house projects and going back and repairing it and fixing it and taking it back. So there's some good things happening.
Yeah, and we've got Wolf Creek's, our admin team's delivering some more metal to the high school here, hopefully this week. They're making some ramps, so like we have a lot of stuff going on, and hopefully, we can just, this big work day, get it back up into a functioning area. And then we've got some ideas down the road, like tying in with science and technology, have the QR codes with information about, the trees or the wildlife, or because it used to have all that with like pamphlets, and so that really isn't, we don't have pamphlets anymore, so just kind of.
It is kind of neat
It's
because a lot of
exciting.
the stuff that's out there now that has fallen apart was built by high school students going for Eagle
Boy
Scout
Scout,
projects
yeah,
back
yeah.
in
A lot
the
of
day.
Eagle Scout
And,
projects, so.
That's been 25 years,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Well, it's such a unique area, and that's when our science teachers get out there and other people that say, so hopefully we'll be able to get our classes out there as well. So I just,
Yeah.
we have a lot of out-of-town educators that I don't think they've ever been out there either, so.
Yeah, and that's, we want the kids to help us get it back, but then we want them to like enjoy it too.
Yeah.
We want the kids to be able to go out there and enjoy that area, so, yeah, exciting. If anyone wants to come help on the 24th.
We'll supply goggles and gloves.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds exciting. Anything else, Jody? Lindsay, special education.
I don't have anything big in addition. I have 2 openings currently, and interviews set up for one, the other one we're getting ready to set up interviews, so, well, not for paras. That right now they're submitting back to me who's planning on returning next year, and then I'll start creating the list of needs moving forward, but it's kind of like a big push right now.
Anything else, Lindsay? Great, cool, man.
Those of you who are standing back there, we got
Oh,
seats
yeah,
up
you got
front.
seats.
It would be helpful if you guys could come on in and join us, and yes.
Great, cool.
Just want to thank you for your continued support of our annual technology improvements. One kind of addition, there is a possibility of a Perkins equipment and supply grant, which actually may cover between $5,000 and $7,000 of what we're planning to spend. So once we find out whether we get that, that may actually reduce the amount that we'd be spending of district funds. So hope to get that grant to go through. We won't know until probably mid-June on that. So we'll just kind of hold off on some of the cameras that would qualify for that grant, ordering them until a later date.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you. All right, anything else, Greg? Superintendent's report, Greg Marshall.
We have a lot of activity happening around the athletic complex with our teams and our events going on, but also little kids events and families using the the outside athletic complex there. And it's just wonderful to see people just being out and about and getting fresh air and being active. And it's really neat to see, I'd say, families out and about and enjoying their time. We just recently had our KESA plan approved from the State Department of Education, focusing on structured literacy, professional development, and again, that focus on reading throughout the district will help benefit our students and our teachers with reading instruction, which is very, very important. So, last part I have is I've invited, help me out, Byron, right?
Yes.
Byron, what's your last name, Byron? I'm sorry.
Wofford.
Byron Wofford and Jack Payne to come and share just a little bit of information about OPA food service program. They have a presentation on their services. Again, we're not deciding or doing anything specific, but again, food service has been a topic of conversation that we've talked about here. And so I'll turn it over to Jack and Byron just to share some information with the board.
Hey, all right. As Craig said, my name's Jack Kane. I worked for OPA for 8 years. Before that, I was in Kansas education 35 years. 29 of those was at Canton Galva, where I grew up. And then I was superintendent at Iola 2013 to 2017. That's where I kind of ran into OPA. We were having issues with the food service. I didn't even know what a food service management company was until then. And so after I retired, they asked me to help some other people. So here I am. So, and this is Byron Wofford. Byron, tell them.
Sure, Byron Wofford. I live in Wichita, so I'm local. I have a restaurant background. Spent 10 years with Texas Roadhouse before I started with OPA, so I've been with OPA for 12 years. It's been a great opportunity for me. Child nutrition has always been near and dear to my heart, so here we are.
All right. So OPA has been family owned for really over 44 years now. We specialize in home-style cooking and baking, and we consider ourselves a premier food service company in the Midwest. And that is why. Okay, so those are all OPA school districts. We started in Missouri. Our home office is out of Chesterfield. But when I was at Iola, I think we were number 16 in Kansas, and that was, like I said, 2014. Now we have about 66 school districts. And in Kansas, there are only about 74, 5 or so, number kind of fluctuates, of schools that have food service management companies. That's over 25%. We have 66 of them. So there are some close to you. Ottawa, Iola, as I said, South Lyon County, Santa Fe Trail, some of those. So why would a school district consider a food service management company? Well, we've kind of identified about 8 reasons. The number one reason and how this model works to begin with is we can buy food cheaper than you can. And because of that savings, we make a little money. We are a for-profit company, but the school saves some money. So at Iola, we were losing, I didn't know this number sounds crazy, probably is, we were losing $255,000 a year at food service. That's a lot of money. Okay. First year we had OPA, we made $61,000 in our food service account. So I think there's a statue of me somewhere in Iola. I haven't found it yet, but anyway, That was a nice turnaround for our district, and more importantly, it helped our kids, because we were able to take that savings and we bought, computers and things like that, and textbook rotation. We weren't using a textbook rotation, so that money went and was well spent on education like it should be. The other thing is increased participation through quality and choice. We have multiple choices that we offer kids. We stress quality in our products. The other thing that we'll do is make sure that you're fully compliant with federal and state regulations. We do menu development. We have inventory control. For us at Iola, that was a big deal. We assist you with any state audits. We do tremendous staff training, and we run your program for you. We market it. We try to increase your participation as much as we can. Byron, why don't you talk about menus here a little bit?
Sure. So here's some choices that we have. Just some examples. A fresh market lunch. We try to do a signature item, and we do some kid-friendly items as well. So you would see roasted turkey, meatloaf, spaghetti, pizza, cheeseburger, spicy chicken sandwich. We do a grab and go where the kids can come in. Sometimes kids don't like to stay in front of the wait line, so we have easy access where they can go get a clear box with a three compartment box with the lunch already in there with the fresh fruits and vegetables, a compliant meal, so they can grab it and they can go and get out of there quick and socialize with their friends, right? So on that items, we have items like Italian sub sandwich, chicken Caesar salad, roasted veggie pita, crispy chicken wrap. Then, of course, in some situations, we offer either a salad bar, which I understand you guys do a salad bar here now, or we can do their own personal salad, chef salad, taco salad. So we kind of switch those around a little bit to keep it fresh, right? Daily choices. So one of the things that kids that really like, especially when we first bring it in, is the Gulp Station. We have tea, water, and lemonade available for our high school students. Or they can go pour their own tea, water, or lemonade. It doesn't cost them anything extra. Some kids don't like milk, and that's okay. They can get the tea, water, lemonade instead of milk if they so choose, or they can have both. Some other examples, fast food with some quick things like pancake sausage on a stick, strawberry banana smoothie with muffin, but we can even do flavored iced coffees at the high school. Some of the high school kids like that. Fruit and yogurt parfaits, cheeseburgers, etc. Here's some of our breakfast options. Biscuits and gravy, Western bacon sandwich, and breakfast burritos, French toast sticks, waffles, oatmeal bar, cereal. So a wide variety of things that are available for your people. We have a corporate chef, Chef Rick, who helps develop our menus. He sometimes comes out to help us open new district. He is a very, very talented person, and he's got a great sense of humor. I love working with Rick. One of the other things, and go back just one more time, one of the things that is that Rick does that I find pretty amazing and helpful for learning is he'll do videos that are emailed out to kitchen managers and staff so that they can see how to make a product. People learn differently, nobody knows better than you guys do, right? And especially these days, videos are an awesome way to learn. Breakfast makes the difference. I can tell you in my area in Kira, Kansas, about 80% of our districts do the second chance breakfast. And I know you guys do that here, which is awesome. We will continue to do that. Here's some of our signage and some of the things that we would decorate, put in your kitchen to kind of liven up the experience for your students. Fresh fruit and vegetable bar. This is one of our signature items. You guys have some in here. We'll probably bring in some more to do the black pans with the tongs, the red spoodles. Color is very important to us, and presentation is very important to us. So that's what we do there. So Jack talked about us being able to buy food cheaper. You guys are buying food for 800 kids. We're serving about 500,000 meals a day. So we can buy a lot cheaper than you can. And we don't buy cheap stuff. And this is all the people that we use. General Mills, Frito-Lay, JTM, Sunny Fresh Mission, Tyson, all the top name brands. We have a piece of a fresh fruit and farm to school, but we'll go into that at a later time.
Yeah, if you're interested in farm to school, let us know. We'll talk more about it. We want to get you through this. We appreciate your time. But, you want me
Go ahead.
take over here? So additional opportunities that we do. Obviously, if you want our breakfast in the classroom, we do that. Anytime elementary school or anybody takes field trips, we make sure you have sack lunches. At Iola, that was a big deal to us. We were 67% free and reduced. It made no sense for us to send a letter home telling parents to bring a sack lunch on Thursday for the field trip. We took care of that. Okay, so we do supper programs, CACFPs, those kind of things. I know you're already doing that program, but we do all those things. Essentially, if you want to do it, we'll find a way to make it happen. Also catering, any banquets or staff breakfast, in-service things, we're glad to do all those kind of things to help you out. Okay, I wanted to talk about the bid process a little bit here because it's something that is highly regulated by KSDE. This is not something we would probably, if we could devise our own system, we probably wouldn't do it this way, but KSD does it. So it isn't our RFP, it is KSD's RFP. So we did a feasibility study here a few years back, but the RFP bid process, essentially you have to request that from KSDE. It takes about, 15, 20 hours to fill it out. It's a lengthy document, maybe about 75 pages, and you have to find a lot of information to fill that out. So the request for proposal goes out to every company that is on the state list. I think there's about 17 or 18. You will not get 17 or 18 bids because those include state hospitals, prisons, all kinds of stuff that are on the state list, not necessarily just K-12, companies that do K-12 deal. And that's all we do, is K-12 food service. So this is a 5-year fixed price contract. That sounds a little scary. It's not quite as scary as what you might think. It is, in reality, 5 one-year contracts. Okay? So because the board has to renew every year. Okay? About this time is when renewals are coming out. And the fixed price is a little iffy too. We can only raise your price by the CPI, Consumer Price Index. So the state of Kansas pulls the Consumer Price Index food away from home category in February, and it's a percentage. So we can only raise your rates by that percentage. This year it was 3.7% was what the percentage was, and then so that raises your rates on student lunch and student breakfast. Okay? So that's kind of how that works. Okay, one thing that boards usually want to know about is what happens to employees. And there are really 3 options here. Well, first, I should say, the director has to be an employee of the food service management company. And that's not our rule, that's KSD's rule. Okay, so keep that in mind. That has to be the first one. So then, the board can decide, okay, we want the food service management company to have all the employees. You can make that decision, you mark that box in the RFP. Or you can say, other than the director, everybody else is going to be a district employees. Keep the way you determine wages and keep your benefits and you pay for those and all that. That stays the same. Or there's a third option, and it's called the transition model. We actually created this with Dale Dennis it's been more than a few years ago, about 8 years ago now, where the board then can decide how you will transition employees. The most popular is simply an employee retires. We replace that employee, the district employee retires, and then that new hire comes over to the food service management company. And then over time, through attrition, you transfer labor over to the food service management company. That tends to be the most popular method of doing it. It's a little more politically friendly. Now the board has some options here too. You can determine how that transition works. So you could tell your employees, hey, we'll let OPA come in, and you guys can decide whether you want to get your paycheck from the district or get your paycheck from OPA. And in that case, I tell employees, I said, look, and I will tell the superintendent too, as well as you guys, if you got somebody that's on papers tier 1, and maybe that they have some health issues, I would keep them on the district side, for sure. If maybe get their insurance through their spouse, and they're on papers tier 3, they might be a candidate to come over to OPA. And the reason for that is our 401k program is a lot better than papers tier 3. They have to wait a year to join it. They're vested in 3, and then we'll match up to 6%, 25% up to 6% will match their contributions. So it's much better than papers tier 3. So we give them the option, to do that. Or you should could give them the option to do that. The other one is through attrition, which I talked about. And the last one, we've had some boards that have gone 2 years or so doing the transition and say, you know what? I think maybe we just ought to move them all over and do it that way. The decisions are completely yours on how you do that. So, but the transition model, because of the flexibility it gives you, if I had to recommend to districts, I would check the transition model no matter what, because you don't have to transition anybody if you don't want to. So, and we talked to a lady today that is eligible to retire. Well, she could retire, come work for us, and double dip, because we're an independent contractor. You don't have those rules of having to pay the penalty of somebody that's already retired and hired back. That makes sense. No. I think I've maybe done all that stuff. So other questions that usually come up. So what about meal prices? Well, you still control what meal prices you charge students. We don't get involved in that either. Your revenue streams, we don't mess with any of that stuff. So other things equipment. So you maintain all your equipment. It's not like doing a bus service where you bid out a bus service and you get rid of all your buses, and then 7 years down the road you say, this isn't working very good, and then you have to buy all your buses back. You maintain all the equipment, you have all the equipment. So in fact, you can get out of the contract, you can do your annual renewal, but if something goes awry and you want to get out in 90 days, you can do that as well. So the 5-year fixed price contract does not necessarily lock you in for 5 years.
So is this like HelloFresh for schools, basically? I mean, is this like HelloFresh for schools? Like you decide the menu and you send us the food and say this is what you're going to have on this day, or?
So we make a menu for the month. I'll just give you an example.
Okay.
So this is, I pulled this up in case this question came up, because it usually does. This is the menu for Linden School District, okay? They have 3 items, all right? What we call our signature item, which is a chicken Alfredo. We have a combo craving, which is a pulled pork sandwich on a bun. And then greens and things, which is our salad option, which is either salad bar or one of our Cobb salads. In this case, it's a chef salad. So that's Monday. And with all those 3 items, you saw the fresh fruit and vegetable bar that I had up there. They have access to the fresh fruit and vegetable bar. So they have to go and they have to get fresh fruit and vegetables enough to make a reimbursable meal, right? But they get to choose what they want. And then they can go and they can get water to your limited. So Tuesday.
So it comes weekly? The food comes weekly?
We make a monthly menu, and we are there. Your employees make the meals, right? We are just there to manage the program.
But the food delivery comes
from our purveyor.
Monthly?
It comes weekly.
Okay, that's what I was
Yes,
asking.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, so
Food
at
delivery
Iola,
comes weekly. We have a month. this is what are all the meals for the month, that the food arrives weekly.
Yeah, fresh food, the truck comes every week.
So you said we maintain control of the equipment and the facilities and whatnot, but you showed some new equipment.
We showed the black pans, right?
Right.
So
Does that come from you or that's?
So what I'll do is if you guys decide you want to go out for bid, right? So I'll go in and I'll make an extensive, I'll look at all of your facilities and see what you have. If we need to bring in a fresh fruit and salad bar, fresh fruit and vegetable bar, we will bring those in with all the utensils that go with it.
That's part of the bid.
That's part of the
Okay.
bid. Now, it depends on if you need them or not. If you, like I saw some things at the high school that we will use, we may bring in something that's for a condiment bar where kids can go and get pickles, lettuce, tomatoes for burgers. And if we have tacos, they have sour cream, hot sauce, lettuce, jalapenos, those types of things. So there'll be bars set up. No.
Okay, so I have a couple questions. So how many employees do you have per, like, for our size school? Is it like based on how many students we have, and so you need this many employees? Is it like how many kitchens we have? What's that?
So what we will do is we'll come in, we'll do an assessment, we'll keep all of your employees, right? That's how we'll bid. If that's how many you want in your kitchens, that's how we will bid the program. Right?
Do you have a suggested number, like you evaluate and be like, well, you have 5 and really you could do it with 4, maybe one employee would do something.
Absolutely.
Take a different job in our district.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, what is the pay comparison like?
So we sat down with the staff today and explained all this to them. I'm sure there was some anxiety. We sat down and I guess we talked to them for about 45 minutes. Maybe
At least, yeah.
And we talked, let them all, so they would make this, whatever they're making right now, they'll make this thing. If you give them a raise, give them their raise this summer, we'll match that, whatever it is, they'll be eligible for a raise every year.
And that's if they become OPA employees. I mean, if they're your employees, then they maintain all the benefits and pay that you decide to pay them. So,
And then who recruits? I saw that we approve the new hires, but do you do the recruiting, the hiring, the
Yes.
advertising to get employees?
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, takes that off your plate. Now, we don't have a labor pool somewhere else that we're pulling people in, so we're using the same labor pool you have. So, but we do have people at the home office that do nothing but try to recruit, and that's done Facebook stuff, targeted regional things like that. And then we're sorting through all that stuff, we're doing the interviews, and then we're bringing them to you folks and say, because they're probably local, and say, okay, we don't know these people like you do. Do you have any issues here? And so we're going to run those by you.
What was their feedback today when you met?
Well, they were apprehensive at first, as I thought, as they always are. But after we talked about our program and what we do, they were, then realized that we don't have horns growing out of our head. They were laughing and smiling at the end of the conversation today. So we put all the cards on the table. We're honest with them and talked through all the things that we just talked to you about, and they were relieved, right? They understood that they're going to be doing the same thing that they're doing. We've got different systems and processes that we use and ways that presentation and the way that we serve food presentation and quality is of paramount importance to us, and we'll teach them how we do all those things.
Okay. I answered my questions.
Okay, we good here? I'll move on here a little bit real quick. So, as we said, you're going to approve all hires, director. So all your policies and procedures, for example, one of the big ones that come up is when kids don't get behind on their lunch, what's your policy? Do you do a cheese sandwich? How do you handle that if kids aren't paying? Okay, and so we don't set that policy, you do, so we follow your procedures on what you want to do there. And whatever software you use to keep track of stuff, that's fine, no big deal to us. So the other thing we do is we make sure there's a smooth transition. So we'll be here a couple of weeks before your opening for first day of school, and we'll be here as long as we need to be to make sure everybody's comfortable with what's going on. The other thing I think that, as you saw the dots on the map, any of our competitors can't do some of the same things we do, and that's the support that we give. You've got Byron lives in Wichita. There's another regional director that's not here tonight, Rob. He will be directly involved in here, and you've also got me. So
just at City Hall.
And so we make sure that things are going okay. And I travel around the state, and I don't know, Craig, I've been coming talking to you for probably 5-6 years. We touch base every once in a while, and so I make sure all the clients are doing okay, and if there's a problem, then we fix it. So, any other questions you might have?
Well, my other question is, so what about, I don't know if we've even ordered food for the summer or this summer, because a lot of stuff, things come in throughout, but, do we have a bunch of overage that's gonna be sitting there? What do you do with that?
So we would come in and we would do a full inventory of what you have on hand, and we will buy everything that is compatible, that is compliant, right? Anything that is out of date or that is not in compliance, that'd be your deal, but we'll buy it from you, and then what we paid for.
We don't have an abundance because, again, we'll get rid of the food that we have for the school year, but we will have summer programs where we're feeding kids, so we will have trucks coming in if we are in that situation.
So part of that study is you have this many kids, so we're gonna send this much food.
Yeah, so we have a system that we use to order how much food that
That
we need.
determines all that, so then the kitchen staff doesn't have to we need this much of this.
We
or
will
this.
train them to do that, right? So the kitchen managers that are in the districts right now, or in this, if they wish to remain kitchen managers, then we will teach them how to do that process. And then the director, who will be an open employee, will oversee all that to make sure that it's correct.
I'm looking at the Linden website right here. Do you guys manage that website? Is it with Craig, or how would you manage the lunch menus?
So that's the exact same menu. That website is on all of our districts. It's the same. So.
Yeah, I saw the Southern Coffee County one. It looks way different than the other ones. That's what made me think. Who would manage that? Oh, Southern Lyon County?
South Lyon County.
Yeah.
That's way off.
I would explain the difference too.
Just trying to do some looking.
Yeah, and the other thing is that as we have some regional favorites, like, for instance, I've had out in western Kansas, they made this awesome hot sauce that they like to put on their line. It's approved. We'll put it out there. Or if there's a recipe item that you like, that's like chicken and noodles in Iowa, they like that recipe, so we took that recipe, sent it to our nutritionist, it met all the guidelines, and we served that recipe. So
We even got an exemption that we didn't have to do the whole grain noodles, which was at the time, so, because that was a big, if you've never eaten a whole grain noodle, you're lucky. They're pretty good, so.
How about Crispitos? Are they?
So Crispitos is something that we don't have on currently.
How did we get a Crispito question already?
Yes, Burlington loves Crispitos.
Do you
Everybody
have
loves
square
Crispitos.
pizza?
We just have square pizza, and we have over fresh.
You might see a Bigfoot
think
before
about
you see a
Crispito.
Crispito, because they're really hard to get right now, so. Especially at a school-approved level, okay? Because Tyson
It's like
isn't making the
1.5.
Crispitos, the chicken Crispitos right now for some reason, so they're really hard to get. And that's been a frustration, not only for you, but for a lot of people.
No,
So,
for sure.
Need to open a Crispito company.
Yeah, that's right, it's open 11 to 10. What other
Southern
questions?
Lyon County looks the same.
So, bringing Byron and Jack here tonight, you guys have had some comments in regards to food service. We can go out for requests for proposals to bid if we want to. Board will have the final say-so. You can accept, you can reject, it's up to you. We can continue doing business the way we've been doing business. We can put it out for a proposal and we can see what we come up with and then make a determination. But if we're going to do something, we do need to get going at least, really quick here to get the proposals out in preparation for next year. And again, the final, approval will come back to the board on what you choose to do. And again, I'm not bringing OPA here as OPA is the one, because they're going to bid it just like anybody else. They are a company that is very entrenched here in this Midwest part of the United States. I brought them here just for you guys so you'd have some information. So I would like for us to go to a request, just a request for proposals and see what we get.
What's the cost to have a proposal done?
It's just time.
For
It's our
Christie's.
time.
15 to
70
20
hours, 50 hours. So what about the administrators? I'm sorry, what do you think about all this?
I
You've
actually
heard
have,
comments from my building, and I would support us maybe exploring another opportunity, because we're not committed if we explore it.
agreed, I've worked in a district that actually used Ulta and kids responded very well. I can tell you what, their Caesar salad is top notch. And I don't eat school lunch ever, but I will eat that. And kids will go back and they will get seconds on it. It is, their food, the presentation is very, very solid from my experience.
Most definitely the options, and that, what I said, if you just put the signs up and the signs would make the food look better, I guess, more enticing for the kids, but the options, and just the tea and the lemonades and options for them. I mean, high schoolers are high schoolers, you'll get we do have, a good following, but Stromboli is ours at the high school, is our favorite, one of our
Yeah, you know what, I
favorites.
just opened we opened a district last year, Stromboli was there.
Stromboli, we have good bakers at the high school, so yeah, most definitely, the salad, the salad bar, maybe,
Well, I don't know.
It's a favorite Renwick too,
Yes.
Stromboli.
I don't know if the sauces they're talking about an option at all levels, but like that's one thing, we have tacos at our building, like we sometimes have sour cream, we always have cheese and lettuce and maybe tomatoes, but we don't ever have hot sauce or even not salsa. I mean, like, just those things are, like, the other day, kids were like, Mrs. Long, why don't we ever gonna have cheeseburgers? We just always have plain hamburgers. And I'm like, I'm not in charge of that. I mean, just those little things, I think, would make a difference.
The other thing that we like to do is we like to get a lot of student input. And our best directors get that on a monthly basis before we, put those menus together. And if administration wants to help sit in on that too, we do that in other districts as well.
We have a wellness group at the middle school that has provided different pieces of feedback too. When we had chicken nuggets quite a bit, that was one of the things, is variation of sauces. Like hot sauce. Well, there's no calories in hot sauce. Let's give it to them.
Let's do it, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's party.
Absolutely.
Yeah, agreed.
Go ahead.
So what's our risk?
Go ahead.
What, 3 years ago when we did
The only risk you have is having Jack in the kitchen.
3 years ago, when we did the feasibility study, that was when Diana Hess was retiring. Looked into it at that point in time. Jack, we went through the numbers, we ran the numbers, Jack, Christy and Jack quite honestly said, I just don't think it's a good time for us to do something. We can't really save you any money at that point in time. Now, 3 years later, things can be a little bit different, so.
That when Diana was still here.
That was when Diana was still steering, so good. Yeah, and you have to remember too, a few years ago, all meals were reimbursed because they were free meals. That's different nowadays, so, and we'll have some more information on that, which we worked on, more so Christie than me. We'll have some information in regards to that.
Yeah, I think
later.
it's worth it, especially, we had the teacher linkage before this, and, cafeteria and
It was on
food
the-
service was on there several times, I think
So there is no risk.
It was on there
It's just-
last year too.
There's no
Yeah,
risk, yeah.
it's an issue.
Yeah, if you don't like any bids, it's just like anything, our proposals, I guess it's really not a bid. You reject them all and keep doing what you're doing.
Any other quick questions before Jack and Byron head out?
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your time, I really appreciate it.
Yes, if it's okay with the board, I would like to at least move forward with, being able to just do the request for proposals.
Do we need to vote on that, or?
You don't need to vote, you will vote when it actually becomes time to vote one way or the other.
I
Okay?
think that's a good idea.
All right.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Safe travels, we'll talk to you later.
Board reports. Board members have any?
So the only thing I have is myself and one other person are going to go, there's a foundation conference on Friday, May 2nd at Eudora Schools. one session in the morning, one in the afternoon, and I'm gonna go to the morning, so if anybody else wants to go, myself, I'm going, and Sarah Rice is going, and at least one more person could go if they wanted.
It's a foundation conference.
So there have been so many requests about educational conferences that someone from Goddard, I can't think of who it is, they've started this foundation, this is the first time, and Eudora is hosting it, and so I think it's just like learning about foundations, and we actually met with the Eudora.
She meant foundations, not conferences, is what she said.
Well, it's a foundation,
Yeah.
it's kind of a mini conference about.
Yeah.
I was with you.
Yeah,
You said
sorry.
foundation, I was thinking like the bottom of a building.
Okay,
So
sorry.
I understand what you're saying.
So, yes, so we did meet with Eudora, their foundation, they have an employee actually, but yeah, so we're gonna go there, so if anybody wants to go, so. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we'll move to audit report. Not sure what to do.
Kyle from Jared Gilmore. I wish I could say I was surprised that people walk out when they see the audit reports coming in next. Happens every time. So like I said, my name is Kyle Spilbush with Jared Gilmore Phillips, just here to walk you through your packet. If you've been on the board before, we have those letters at the front, and we'll get those at the end of the presentation. We'll dive right into page 1. Page 1 through 3 is the independent audit report. In this booklet, this report, as well as a couple others at the back, are the only thing that belongs to us as auditors. Everything else in here, it is the district's information, district's numbers, just take it and put it in the prescribed format by KMAC. So your first 3 paragraphs, those are kind of your most important ones. First one talks about what we audit, which is the fund summary statement of regulatory basis receipts, expenditures, and unencumbered cash balances for the year ended June 30, 2024. Next paragraph talks about that adverse opinion on U.S. GAAP financials. Since the district elects to follow KMAC, we have to issue that adverse opinion because you'd have material differences in your financial statement. Things like debt, prepaids, receivables would show up. With KMAC, all you simply have is cash and accounts payable. Third paragraph is the most important one, and that's that unmodified opinion on a regulatory basis of accounting. We believe, based on our audit fieldwork, that the numbers presented herein are a material, accurate representation of what happened during the year for the district. So we issue that unmodified opinion, slang term clean opinion, the best opinion you can receive on your audit for your financial statement. Those next 2 paragraphs kind of touch on that basis for adverse and unmodified opinion that I mentioned. And then we get to management's responsibilities and auditor's responsibilities. And then finally there on page 2 and 3, we talk about some supplementary information required by KMAG, some schedules we'll see at the back, talks about how we put last year's information in here for comparative purposes, as well as we have that last paragraph, that other reporting. Since you receive and spend over $750,000 of federal funds, you have to have that single audit each year. That paragraph just states we put that within this booklet. It's not 2 separate audits, which is a possibility to do. Turn the page to page 4 and 5. This is your financial statement, statement 1. This lists all the various funds of the district. You've got your beginning unencumbered cash balance or your cash carryover for budget purpose. Your receipts, money coming in the door, expenditures, money going out the door to get to that ending unencumbered cash balance. One of the things you have to do as a state municipality is that you have to follow this 10-page checklist of some various statutes and regulations. One of those is that each fund ends in a positive cash balance in that ending unencumbered cash balance column. So you glance through there, you will note that there is one negative in there. That's a grant fund. The state recognizes a lot of times you got to spend that money up front before you actually get the reimbursements back. So they understand that happens at year end, especially with timing. So that is allowable. But I always like to highlight, there is one, and it's going to happen at most school districts with grant funds. But just kind of like to give that reasoning for you. Next column is your accounts payable. These are those bills or those amounts encumbered in that various budget. Things like your non-lump sum salary that's paid out in July and August, things like that. And then finally, your far right column is your ending cash in bank by fund balance. And if you flip down there to page 5, you can see where we break out those amounts by the various types of accounts held by the district. The only other thing I like to point out on here is that negative number on page 5, that less agency funds. Those are those funds that the district holds in your accounts, but they don't belong to the district, things like your student activity funds and things like that. So we'll see a schedule of those 2 at the back. Following page starts the footnotes. I'm just going to highlight a few of these that are kind of the most important kind of change year in and year out. Footnote number 1 is a pretty cookie cutter footnote. Just talks about KMAG, talks about Kansas budget law, talks about the makeup of the district. The kind of portions that I like to highlight in this footnote are on page 8. There's a numbered list kind of halfway down the page. First couple paragraphs underneath there. The first one just talks about that revenue neutral rate hearing, just kind of highlight that that's still going on. This is about the 3rd year that's been in there. We just note that the district did not have a revenue neutral rate hearing for the budget year. And then the next column is any budget amendments, of which there were none, but then we just always talk about that the general fund and supplemental general always adjusted based on enrollment as well. Turn over the page to page 9, we get to footnote number 2, which is that stewardship, compliance, and accountability footnote. This one relates to that 10-page checklist that I kind of referenced earlier. If we had any issues there, this is where they're going to be disclosed. That long paragraph just talks about that negative cash balance that I mentioned earlier, cites the statute that makes it allowable, and then also cites that you were in compliance with Kansas budget laws as well. Footnote number 3, kind of the part I like to highlight on that one is on page 10, the very last paragraph in there on that top, 3rd one down, and that's just that all your funds were secured at the end of the year for the school district. So just like to cite that you didn't have any unsecured funds out there. We're going to go ahead and flip the page to page 11. This is your long-term debt schedule. This footnote just discloses all the debt instruments held by the district, of which you can see you just have the one, which is the turf lease. And here we just disclose the activity for the year, beginning balance, amounts paid, ending balance, and then your interest paid as well. And then we break it down below with that schedule as well. It gives you kind of that list of future payments. I always like to remind the board this is a good kind of budgeting tool to have in your back pocket when it comes time for budget, just because you can kind of see when those debt instruments are going to come due. Gives you an idea when those big payments might be coming up. So I always like to highlight that one. Following couple pages, 12 and 13, are your defined benefit pension plan footnote, or your KPERS footnote. The couple paragraphs that we mentioned here are on page 13. A lot of that stuff on page 12 is stuff from the state legislation regarding funding KPERS, trying to get it back up to funding. But on page 13, there's actually information pertaining directly to the district. Second paragraph down, we talk about how much was remitted on behalf of the district, a little over $1.3 million. And then we talked about that net pension liability, kind of that scariest one in here. That's that amount that the school district would owe for retirement obligations if KPERS were to ever quit being funded by the state. Obviously, you don't ever foresee that happening, but since it is an underfunded plan, you can see that number is pretty large, a little over $11.5 million. We're just required to disclose that year in. And that fluctuates greatly based on kind of that state legislation that's in there, stock market performance, things like that. So you'll see big swings in there. Finally, the last couple footnotes we're going to talk about is on page 15. I always like to highlight the footnote number 11, which is your interfund transfers. Essentially, the biggest thing to take away from this is that each of your internal fund transfers all had statutory authority to be made. And then the following page, page 16, that's subsequent events. Nothing to highlight there, but just like to point out, that's going to be anything major from the end of the fiscal year to when we issue the audit, kind of out of the ordinary for the district that we felt needed to be disclosed, but we didn't have anything to disclose there. Now we're going to get to that supplementary information that I talked about. Schedule 1, this is that budgetary comparison schedule. Lists all your budgeted funds on the far left. Then you've got your certified budget, those adjustments to comply with that legal max based on your enrollment. Your adjustments for qualifying budget credits. These are called budget extenders, things like reimbursed expense, loan proceeds, grant proceeds, essentially anything that money's kind of coming in from an outside source to extend your budget essentially. So we sum those 3 columns up to get your total budget for each fund, and we compare that to your total expenditures. And this is where that far right column is your most important one. That one time that a negative number is a good thing, means you're under budget in all your funds. You glance through there, you can see you met that requirement like we mentioned earlier. The following pages, page 18, all the way back to page 43, are the individual fund summary statement schedules. This goes through all that information on statement 1 and breaks it down in more detail for you. Gives you the receipts coming in the door, kind of are they tax dollars, are they grant dollars, etc. Gives you the broken down expenditure categories supplied by KSD that you follow. Talks about your transfers. This is where that prior year information comes into play, so you can kind of see what's going on one year to the next. Gives you that budgeted by line item, and then your variance over under by line item. I just always like to highlight, if you look at that variance over under by line item, you're going to see big swings. That just happens because you're budgeting out so far in advance. State recognizes that you're bound in total by fund, not by individual line item. So just always focus on the total number, not necessarily your individual items. I'm going to slide all the way back to page 44 now. And as you glance through there, if you do review those individual fund summary statements and you ever have any questions or that we don't get to tonight as you're glancing through it, feel free to always reach out to us. We're happy to answer any kind of questions that you guys have. But on page 44 are your agency funds. Like I mentioned, you glance through here, you can see a lot of those are your school activity funds. Here we're just kind of giving you the ins and outs for the year. You've got your beginning balance, your receipts, expenditures, and then your ending cash balance. Following page, page 46, those are the district activity funds that actually do belong to the district. Things like your gate receipts and sales tax, things of those nature. The next page, page 47 and 48, gets into the single audit portion of here. This is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. Essentially, this breaks down all the various federal grants received and spent by the school district during the year, broken out by their various departments of the government, and then broken out by their various types of grant. Each of these grants are assigned a pass-through number from the pass-through entity, so KSDE or whoever else the grant's coming through. And then they're also assigned a federal CFDA number, just helps them keep those all separate on their side. Next column is you're provided to subrecipients. That would be if you received a grant and then in turn granted that out to somebody else. You didn't have any of those during the year. And then you've got your receipts and expenditures. So we just go through a checklist based on the grants we've tested before, ones that this government tells us are more risky, things like that. Which ones are we supposed to test? So the two that we tested this year were your ESSER money, been a common theme the last few years just because how new that money is. And then also we test the IDEA grant. So things we do to test those are looking at expenditures, making sure they're allowable, they're being spent for how they're supposed to be spent, as well as with the IDEA grant, we're looking at teachers, making sure they're certifying that all their time spent is going to those grants, things of those nature. I'm going to go ahead and skip the next couple of reports and go straight back to page 54. You might thank me later. This page 54 has all that information from these reports. I could spend the time on those reports if you wanted, but as you glance at page 54, it's a much more condensed version, gives you all the information from those reports. So at the top, we talk about that financial statement opinion, adverse on GAAP, unmodified on KMAG, any internal control issues over financial reporting, of which there were none. Any issues on federal awards, of which there were none. Our opinion on your compliance with major federal award programs, so those grants we tested, which was unmodified, meaning we didn't have any issues when it came to testing them. That would, in the very next slide, any audit findings of which there were none. We identify those major programs, and then the threshold for type A and B programs, and then finally your low-risk auditee checklist. Biggest thing I always like to highlight is you're always going to be no on a low-risk auditee. And that's mainly because to be a low-risk auditee, you have to either follow GAAP or a state-required basis of accounting. Since KMAG is elective, you elect to follow that, you're always going to be no. All it does is just change the percentage of grant dollars that we test. So if you're low risk, then they say, oh, they haven't had problems before, they want you to test 20% of all their expenditures. It just changes it to 40%. So really it doesn't mean anything to you guys other than just how much dollars we're actually testing. And then finally, if we had any findings of which there were none, and any prior year findings of which there were none. Now I'll go back to those letters at the front of your packet. It's just one stapled packet there together. First 2 pages is what they call the presentation letter. It's kind of another boilerplate letter. This one's mainly related on if we had issues with management when it came to completing the audit. Disagreements with them, trouble getting information, things like that nature. We didn't have any of those to disclose, and we always enjoy working with your staff, but I encourage you to read through there, maybe see those things we might talk about or approach you about if we were to have issues. Third page in there are your audit adjustments, pretty short, half a page. Some school districts you're looking at 2 pages, 3 pages worth of adjustments. So that just kind of speaks to the quality of your staff as far as making sure that the numbers are presented are correct that you're looking at or reviewing each month, and so there's not much modification to them past what you're seeing. And then finally, the last 2 pages in there is what they call the management representation letter. We like to call this one the reminder letter. Essentially, each one of those points we kind of talk about during the audit, so it's always good to reread that each year kind of re-familiarize yourself with those points. And so as the year goes on, if something does happen pertaining to them, you make sure to tell us about it when it comes time for audit. So with that being said, any kind of questions or comments? I know that was kind of quick. Try to keep it as condensed as I can without getting too deep in the weeds for you.
Any questions?
And if anything ever comes up, like I said, Christy can email us, call us. We're happy to answer anything that you guys ever come up with.
Thank
you.
Questions? Go ahead.
No, I said thank you.
Okay. Motion to approve the 2023-2024 audit as presented.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. Submit your vote.
While you're voting, I cannot thank Kyle and his staff enough. They are just very professional, excellent to work with, top-notch people. And our central office staff, Christy, Nicole, Jen, Whitney, everybody, central office, the stuff they do here, and then in our local buildings, the office staff, they are tremendous to make sure that we are top-notch with our audit and our reports.
Click it twice, huh?
Then it said join meeting. Oh, yeah.
Motion carries 6-0.
Yeah, you guys have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later. Take care. Safe travels.
Results monitoring report, results report. Who wants to talk to that? Do we have any question on that? Everybody's had a chance to review those. Anybody have any questions? Okay, I'll take a motion.
You need a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to accept the results 2 monitoring report concerning physical education, performing arts, visual arts, and foreign language as reasonable progress towards meeting the board's results policies.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? No discussion, submit your vote.
It's fast.
Motion carries 6-0. Contract approval of appointments. Motion to approve the engagement letter with Jared Gilmore and Phillips, PA for the 2024-2025 financial audit in an amount not to exceed $10,300.
I'll second.
Motion second, discussion. No discussion, submit your votes.
It won't change my vote, but I'm curious why it's 10,300.
It's a slight increase.
Slight increase from last year.
Okay, I just didn't know if they increased their fee or not. It's a nice round number for it.
10,000 was last year, so.
Yeah, okay.
Good question.
I
Motion
said
carries
inflation.
6-0.
Yeah, I figured, but it seemed odd.
I'm just,
Open enrollment discuss policy. As you know, last year they made the open enrollment thing you have to do, so.
did we turn anyone away this year?
Not that apply within the time frame. The only people that were turned away are people that apply after the 9/20 days.
Are they ones that are gonna apply that would add to this number for next year?
They could apply.
Yes, they could.
Yeah.
Could apply.
Administrators.
So then they,
Excuse
I'm
me,
sorry,
go
so
ahead.
they wouldn't bump out someone that already exists?
Once you have already been in our district from outside this past year, and you're still in good standing, you stay. The numbers that we submitted in the board agenda are add additional
Okay.
students that could be coming in.
Okay.
Our administrators were a little conservative with this because so for example, we could get an influx of students who actually reside here in Burlington.
Right.
And we would have to take them. And then if we have the out-of-district open enrollment seats that we have to take based on the count, then we have to take those numbers as well. You just never know how many you're going to get moved into your district that you actually have to take. And then additional students that would be in those open enrollment seats.
So like for an example, we have 10 students in elementary school that are getting homeschooled, and they decide to come back to school the next year. They're gonna get the seat.
That they are, yeah, they count for
They
us.
don't count towards this, they just get to come.
They get to come.
If they're enrolled in USD
So if we
244,
get
they
10
automatically
extras
count.
in a grade, and then we say we have, how many ever on
5
the
additional
seats there.
seats.
You're
And you have to
gonna
take that number of seats too, so like if it
So
was
it's
4 or
accommodated.
10, you might get 14 in the grade level.
There's nothing we can do to control that though, except like you said, be conservative and make sure we're not saying 25
Which
kids.
is why some of the numbers are different for different grade levels.
Or if we went back to the old process we had before, and it worked very well. Very well.
Math was before my time, so.
So the
Where the state
seventh,
just lets us.
Yes.
for next year's 7th grade is basically 1, or like Darla has 0 for 4th. Is that basically because we're at our max level for those classrooms, and so we
Yes,
still
you're looking
add?
at 64 kids, 65
That
kids.
62,
Could
and
be
we may
more.
have some move-ins. I mean, that class was below 60 last year when we had that number, and then we gained kids that moved into our district with that grade, so
Right.
we're at a big number now.
That really shows the disparity between grade levels.
That is
I
definitely-
mean, anywhere between 0 and 10.
0 and 10.
Yeah.
We're trying
So-
to keep the class sizes in that 50, upper 50s to 60s range. We kind of, that's kind of that general number that we're looking at.
Just because I've never looked at these numbers in this way before, do we know why that kindergarten first, second grade is so much smaller?
I think that's just the number of babies, I mean, like, actually, kindergarten has several out of district in it, so I think that was just the year that maybe there weren't as many babies born.
I just asked.
I honestly think of the 40, I think there's 46 kids in kindergarten right now. I don't feel like there's maybe like 6 out of district,
Oh,
so.
Was there any discussion at the legislative level to do away with this
No.
ridiculous
No.
policy?
I would agree, but no.
I will say 2 of us voted no last year because we didn't really, well, some of us didn't want to give the state the idea that we really support this. I'll say that. It's
But-
frustrating.
I do appreciate the effort you guys have put into trying to figure out how to balance this
Yeah.
out.
Thank
and keep
you.
everything as even as possible. I'm not exactly sure who all was involved in that process. I assume you 3 had some say in it, but I'm guessing you didn't make that decision alone. So, thank you.
Definitely.
The administrators and myself, Lindsay was involved a little bit in discussion, because you have to remember too, we have to factor in special education students and needs with that enrollment piece. So it's a team. We do work well as a team.
Were families frustrated that they couldn't come?
The ones that showed up late.
Right.
I would say
I think they're
they were
disappointed.
disappointed. But again, it was, what was it, October when they had applied.
And we have
We were past
no
that.
way of allowing them if they show up late, right?
If we're already to the number.
Well, because when they're late, if it's after September
Don't get
20th,
it.
we don't get.
We don't get it.
We don't get.
How many did we turn away?
One at the, is it one at the middle school, one at the elementary?
I think, well, we had one family that we had a situation with that was here. They didn't really follow the process, so they were out. So we had that family in common. And then there was one family that had inquired like last May with me, and then, they were informed of the process, and then they called way after the date, and I was like, well, it's closed now. And, I mean,
Yeah.
they were busy in the summer and they just couldn't get it done. I mean, it's pretty much what the parent told me, so.
When I talked to a parent earlier this year that they want to bring a 5th grader, not sure at elementary yet. And I said, well, if the 5th grader gets approved, do the others get approved? I said, No, it's based upon each individual grade level, so it's not like if Darla has no seats in 3rd grade and I have 2 in 5th grade and I take the 2 5th graders, she isn't gonna take that 3rd grade. And that's tough.
But that's beyond our ability to regulate that here.
Correct. Because once it's in the lottery, it's in the lottery. We have no control over that.
So we just need to approve motion for this?
Yes.
Motion to approve the USD 244 student enrollment projections and non-resident enrollment capacity as presented.
Second. Discussion.
My vote does not reflect you.
Motion carries 5-1. All right. Greenbush Blended Learning, MOU.
This is for our Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 students at the high school. Again, we're doing that online blended learning through Greenbush. This is their projection, again, from the high school for enrollment. We have 17 students in Spanish 1, 3 in Spanish 2, and our projected dollar amount that we're looking at is, again, $450 per student per semester. And I think it's been a good experience this year from what I've understood.
We've had the same instructor for 2 years now. She does come visit campus and does some fun things with them. And now she is busy, so she's doing multiple schools. But so our kids are actually kind of back into the IDL ages, is that they are with other kids in class, like our Spanish 2. So they have other schools that they're actually live with. So she manages it all, and we have Miss Gerardo and then Mr. Felipe are the monitors. Next year, Mr. Felipe will be the monitors for Spanish 1, Spanish 2. So he speaks 3 languages. And so I went in on his board, and he had what each of their names were in Spanish, 2, and then English. So he, on the off days, because there's 2 days they're live, and then the off days, then they're doing work. And so somebody who understands it and who can help them with their work. So it has, and Miss Gerardo as well. So it's been just having staff alone that can support that, not certified in the area, but can support it, has been very helpful. Our numbers are not growing though, so we're trying to see having the discussion how we can get that for the 2 foreign languages.
To put it in perspective, that's a class that would require a whole other teacher, and we're paying $90,000 a year for it, significantly less than.
Correct. So
this allows us to provide classes that we don't have the ability to do on site.
Right, and so if you think about it, let's say it's $1,000 a year per kid, because $450 per semester, and so for
$18,000, yes.
Yeah, so every kid that we add is another $1,000. You're still saving money. So right now, I mean, it's working, and so.
Yeah, we would almost have to have half of the juniors and seniors sign up in order for it to not be cost efficient, so.
We do have, for foreign language, we do have French and German, Mandarin, Chinese, all available through Ingenuity. So there was some availability there, the non-live teacher. And then Miss Marshall just went to listen to a training of what's coming up. And so we're going to have an option for some live training too. So we got to look at the pricing. So if some kid says, hey, I want 2 years in German, and that's on their plan of study, we will take a look at that, because we really want to see them do exactly what they want to do. So as technology and all this stuff, keeps evolving, you guys have been very gracious on that, so our kids are able to follow their individual plan of study.
This is the generation of kids that lived through COVID, so training online like that's pretty normal for them, I think.
Right. Motion to approve the Greenbush Blended Learning Memorandum of Understanding for the purpose of delivering foreign language instruction to Burlington High School students for the 2025-2026 school year in the amount of $450 per student per semester.
Second.
Motion second, discussion.
Is there not another program or Linda, what is this company, Greenbush Blended Learning, that provides those additional languages for the students? Or do we have to have like a different contract for every language that we're doing?
That'd be through Edgenuity.
Yeah, that's a great question. We looked into another provider, but Edgenuity has been around. I've been working with Edgenuity since I was in Iowa, so about 15 years.
Yeah.
And so as they've evolved and they have a lot of teachers, Greenbush just actually hires the teacher for us, and that's why we're able to do it live. If our kids said to any kid tomorrow could sign up for Spanish and do it online without a live teacher, we have the curriculum.
Yeah.
You all have purchased Edgenuity curriculum for us, and our kids that's where they're taking biotechnology and cosmetology, they're taking all those classes. Edgenuity is the platform, and through Greenbush, they're providing the live instructor. And so that's where we're at. So, next year could be different, but she's still coming, I asked her,
So Ingenuity has all those languages, but they're all self-paced, on your own learning?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
We just choose to do Spanish in a face-to-face.
Right.
For an additional fee.
Right.
For the kids can have it.
Yeah.
Because it's higher numbers, more kids.
So there's more kids taking Spanish than there are every other language?
Oh, yeah, yes, yes, there are.
Probably the rest of them combined.
Right, and then put in perspective, some of the kids who are requesting German and stuff, we are looking at reading scores and things like that, because it is very difficult to take a French or a German language without having that conversation, or without anybody in our school system that can have that conversation with them, because we would definitely mention that, but Spanish is just one that right now is kind of the go-to, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a challenge to see just getting more programs, that if we have one program that already has everything encompassed in, and was my only challenge to that. No additional comments.
Great.
Right.
Any more discussion? Been motion to second, let you vote. Motion carries 6-0. Dairy bid.
Okay, you have the dairy bid here from Highland. A question might come up in your mind is, if we approve this, would this impact us in any way, shape, or form if we were to go to a food service company? And the answer is no. Food service company would assume this dairy bid because they want to have milk for the kids. So anyway, so not an issue at all if we end up going with an outside food service provider. So we have one bid from Highland.
And this is annotated a little odd. The numbers in parentheses are increases, not decreases. Normally you see negative numbers in parentheses, but it's the opposite on here.
Yes.
So I see 2 of them that dropped and the rest of them went up fractions of a cent or whatever it works out to.
Motion to approve the bid from Highland Dairy Foods Company LLC for the 2025-2026 school year as presented.
Motion to second, discussion. Hearing none, submit your vote.
Cherry apple juice. That sounds delicious. Cherry apple juice.
That fruit sour cream.
You need to get some cherry apple juice in the fridge.
Motion carries 6-0. Craig, you want to talk about the
Yes.
Homeland Security?
Yes, this is coming from emergency management. It's just something that we have to adopt for Kansas Homeland Security Region 6 Hazard Mitigation Plan. Plan's been approved by the county, and we just follow along with the county's plan. And so we have a number of things for you guys to sign, so afterwards, make sure you get things signed here. So it's just, I'm sorry, it's just a follow through with what the county is providing.
And there's no major changes from what we've done in the past on this? There's not a lot of information here, so.
No.
Okay.
We work with the county in emergency management and Wolf Creek in terms of that preparation piece and go through training and, yes.
Motion to adopt the Kansas Homeland Security Region J Hazard Mitigation Resolution.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion? None, so vote.
With all those people online, know how glamorous this job is.
What?
With all those people online, know how glamorous this job is.
Motion carries 6-0. Heartland Coca-Cola beverage agreement.
Okay, we basically are a Coca-Cola district. However, we haven't done a contract with them in a number of years. I don't know what the transition happened, maybe when Dave Watkins left and came on board with a new, the leadership at the high school. And so long story short, we felt like we needed to get something in place with them, so we were identified, if you will, a Coca-Cola school district. They provide things for us being a Coca-Cola school district, like the coolers, the different beverage carts, and so on and so forth. And then they also are going to provide a sponsorship fund of $1,000 annually annually each year for a 5-year time. Basically, this is a 5-year type of an agreement with them. They stock our buildings with Coke products, so our administrators aren't having to go run the Sam's Club and get all beverages for concession stands and events and so on and so forth. They come, they drop off, and we have much less in the way of work to do. So this, like I say, this is kind of something that just we haven't done in a while, and just kind of wanted to make it official. And with their sponsorship, that sponsorship fund of $1,000 each year for 5 years, like I say, we just felt like it was something we needed to do to actually make it formal.
What fund does that 1,000 go into?
It can go into a number of different things. But I would imagine it's probably, I have to think where we want to put that. Because we haven't had an official contract with the beverage provider, so that'll be something that Christy and I will have to look into.
Motion to approve the beverage agreement with Heartland Coca-Cola Bottling Company LLC as presented.
All second.
Motion second, any discussion? Mr. Vogt? Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to personnel. Motion to recess in executive session for 30 minutes to discuss supplemental duty contracts pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under COMA, and to return to open session in this room at the end of that time.
Second.
James, you said 30 minutes.
30 minutes on end.
Okay.
James made the motion.
Monique seconded.
Just making sure you.
Any discussion? Submit your vote.
We didn't take the peanuts?
Motion to recess into executive session for 10 minutes to discuss supplemental duty contracts pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under COMA, and to return to open session in this room at the end of that time.
Second. Motion second. Discussion.
Including Martha.
Including Kramer, yeah.
That's correct.
So I eat the nuts first.
Okay. I'm like, don't you? Just the chocolate. So 27?
27, okay.
Amendments, discuss supplemental duty contracts pursuant to non-elected personnel, except for Coleman, and to return to open session in this room at the end of that time.
Include Craig Marshall.
Include Craig Marshall.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. Submit your vote.
You guys toured the whole building now, or?
Chair.
Enjoy the water.
Go upstairs and see the.
I got it, yeah.
Motion carried, 6-0.
15.
We're gonna go over, so we might as well do 15.
Motion to recess into executive session for 15 minutes to discuss supplemental duty contracts pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under coma, and to return to open session in this room at the end of that time, include Greg Marshall.
I promise we're not trying to weed you guys out.
I bet you are.
No discussion, just make your vote.
Yeah, I could be up in like 7 hours, that's not what's happening, so.
Sleep timer's funny.
Ronnie, yours is written up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was sleeping because I was paying attention. I apologize.
There we go.
Just right around the
accept the retirement request of Tom Burris with regret at the end of the 2024-2025 school year.
Second.
Second, discussion? Submit your vote.
Just getting voting in.
I'm sorry, I think I got
Looks like Tom's been a custodian and a substitute bus driver for USD 244 for 12 years.
Yes.
Thank you, John. I was just going to read that.
Tom will be missed.
I'm gonna have to vote verbally. I logged out because I was looking something up. I vote aye.
That's Don's, not.
I know. That's what's up there though. In the. I'll put that up.
Next one, motion to accept retirement request of Peggy Chafin as food service worker with regret at the end of the 2024-2025 school year.
Second.
Motion second, discussion.
Peggy's been a part-time cook for BMS for the last 3 years.
3 years.
And we will miss Peggy.
Is that Chad Chafin?
Not sure. I was actually thinking that.
I do think that it's.
It's not a common
that
name.
vote, yes.
Yeah, it's not.
I think it is.
She did.
She did.
She carried times.
Motion carries 6-0.
Nothing for students.
Nothing for students, negotiations.
I don't think we need to meet because we haven't had our first meeting yet, and we're going to schedule that very soon.
Great, closing night debriefing. Long night, thanks for everybody's input. Anything else?
Thank you for coming.
Yes. Motion adjourned. Adjourned. We are adjourned.
We are adjourned.
We are adjourned.
Got some grease on this. You want this?